Unhand my wife. The courtyard froze, cocktails mid-sip, laughter strangled mid-breath, as Graham West, the reclusive tech billionaire, descended the marble steps like a storm in a tuxedo. Moments earlier, they had mocked Elise Morgan as a fraud in flats, not knowing they had just dragged the bride out of her own wedding. They humiliated her. Laughter rippled through the sun-drenched courtyard of Villa Billionaire as Elise Morgan was yanked toward the gates by security. Her ivory linen dress, once crisp, now clung to her legs with wrinkles. Dust clung to her leather flats with each reluctant step on the cobblestone floor. Phones pointed. Comments flew. "She's a wedding crasher," someone jeered. "Probably here to seduce a rich guest." Another voice, shrill and dripping with judgment, shouted, "Get her out of here before she ruins the aesthetic." What they didn't know was this: the woman they just dragged through the dirt wasn't some desperate intruder. She was the bride. The afternoon had started quietly, almost dreamlike. Elise had arrived at the ancient Italian estate in a modest white Fiat, the kind of rental no one at this event would be caught dead in. The air was thick with jasmine and the glint of wealth. Helicopters hovered high above the estate, ensuring no tabloid lens could sneak a photo. Villa Billionaire, nestled on the edge of Lake Argent, looked like something carved from fantasy, its marble balconies wrapped in wisteria, its fountains weeping into rose-petal-filled basins, its staff dressed like opera performers. A wedding of this scale didn't happen often. Not with guests like oil tycoons, tech giants, royalty, and crypto aristocracy all sipping champagne under one sky. Elise stepped out of the car alone. No entourage. No makeup team. No designer luggage. Just her dress, sleeveless, flowing, and wrinkle-prone. Her auburn hair was pulled into a simple braid, and her only accessory was a thin envelope she clutched in her hand, her invitation. She was 37, calm-eyed, quietly beautiful, and clearly out of place in a sea of sequins and silks. But she walked up the marble steps with a steady grace, like someone who belonged, if not to the setting, then at least to herself. She approached the VIP entrance beneath an arch of imported roses, where two security guards in tuxedos manned the path like gatekeepers of Olympus. The older one, Giovanni, had the chiseled face of an ex-military man and the expression of someone who had already decided you weren't important. His eyes flicked over Elise's outfit like a customs officer inspecting a suitcase. "Staff entrances to the rear," he said flatly, pointing to a narrow alley where servers carried trays through a service corridor. Elise offered a polite smile. "I'm not staff," she replied calmly, holding out her invitation. "Elise Morgan." Giovanni took the envelope with the caution of someone handling a bomb. He turned it over, scanned the name, squinted at her face, then waved over Marina, the event's head coordinator, clipboard queen, and couture watchdog. Marina looked Elise up and down, her lips curled in skepticism. "This dress," she began. "There's no way this woman is on the guest list. Is this a joke?" Marina snapped the invitation from Giovanni's hand and examined it like she was checking for counterfeit bills. "I'll need to verify this," she said, turning to speak into her earpiece. Elise stood still. The sun warmed her shoulders, but the air around her had turned cold. From across the terrace, a flurry of camera shutters and the clink of high-end glass marked the arrival of other guests. A sleek black Bentley rolled up, revealing three women who stepped out like they'd walked off the cover of Vogue: Sabrina Wolf, Ines Laurent, and Talia Mera. Glittering in gold, emerald, and ruby tones, they moved with the practiced elegance of influencers turned royalty. Their laughter rang out as they spotted Elise. "Is that the Villa gardener?" Sabrina sneered, her voice dripping with amusement. "Or is she auditioning for Downton Abbey?" Ines let out a high-pitched giggle. "That linen dress is brave." Talia snapped a photo and whispered, "This is going straight to my story." Caption it, "Crashers still exist in 2025. Elise didn't respond. She simply looked at them, unblinking, unflinching. "You're welcome to ask me who I am," she said softly. The line was almost too gentle to be considered defiance, but the steel beneath her calm was unmistakable. Sabrina rolled her eyes. "Sweetheart, I don't ask questions to help." I asked them to ruin. Then, turning to Marina, she added, "This woman's clearly a grifter. Throw her out before she embarrasses the flowers." Marina didn't hesitate. "Fake invitation," she barked. "Security, remove her." Giovanni stepped forward, now joined by a younger guard. "Let's go," he said, grabbing Elise's elbow. "We'll deal with you outside the gates." Elise didn't struggle. She didn't yell. She simply walked, her braid swaying, her spine straight. Then it started. Someone tossed a cocktail olive. It hit her cheek and rolled down the front of her dress. Someone else flicked a napkin at her. "Wipe the desperation off your face," they said. Phones came up like weapons, recording every step of her exit. Comments flashed in real time, gold digger vibes. Homeless princess crash landing. Sugar daddy alert. Still, Elise kept walking. Dignified. Unapologetic. Marina followed behind, fuming. "You thought you could just show up here and blend in? This wedding's for people who matter." Sabrina called out from the terrace. She probably forged the invite. Bet it came with her Uber Eats order. Another voice yelled, "Get her out of the photos. She's polluting the grid." Just as Giovanni and the younger guard reached the final archway near the villa gates, a deep voice boomed across the courtyard. Clear. Commanding. American. Unhand my wife. Time fractured. The courtyard froze. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. Sabrina's phone nearly slipped from her fingers. Marina's face drained of color. Elise stopped too, her shoulders relaxing, her head turning slowly toward the source. Standing at the top of the stone staircase was Graham West. He was 41, tall, quietly powerful, with the kind of face that didn't need a spotlight to be noticed. His tailored tuxedo clung perfectly to his lean frame. His eyes, storm gray and sharp, locked onto Giovanni and Marina with a weight that crushed whatever self-importance they still had. The world knew Graham as the founder of Cerebrian Labs, the tech firm that had redefined neuro-AI, worth over $180 billion. But right now, he wasn't a titan. He was a furious husband. He descended the stairs slowly. Each step echoed like judgment. "You," he said, nodding at Marina, "just dragged my wife across a courtyard like a criminal." Marina opened her mouth, but nothing came out. "And you," he turned to Giovanni, "tore up her invitation because you didn't like her dress." Giovanni released Elise's arm as if burned. The younger guard backed away entirely. Graham reached Elise and took her hand gently, his voice softer now. "Are you okay?" She nodded once, her voice steady. "I am now." He turned back to the crowd, lifting their joined hands. "This is Elise Morgan. My wife. We married 6 months ago in San Francisco. No fanfare. No press. Today was supposed to be our public ceremony. And this," his voice hardened, "was your test." A hush settled over the courtyard like ash. And they had all failed. Silence gripped the courtyard like a vice the moment Graham West took Elise's hand. The same crowd that had just moments ago jeered, laughed, and hurled cocktail olives stood frozen, as if someone had unplugged the music of their cruelty. Marina stepped back, her clipboard trembling in her hands, and Giovanni, who had yanked Elise through the stone arch as if she were nothing, looked like he wanted to disappear into the garden hedges. Graham's voice, calm but razor-sharp, carried through the air like a verdict. "This is Elise Morgan. My wife. We were married 6 months ago in a courthouse, with no fanfare, no cameras, and no designer gowns. Just us, 2 witnesses, and a promise." His hand tightened gently around Elise's. "And today was supposed to be our celebration. A chance to share our joy with those we thought were worthy of it." The word worthy rang like a bell across the marble terrace. Faces flushed. Glasses dipped. Elise stood tall beside him, olive oil still staining the front of her dress, her braid pulled loose from the assault of humiliation, but she looked more regal than anyone in diamonds. "You all failed," Graham continued. You judged her by her shoes, her dress, the simplicity of her presence. You called her a fraud, a gold digger, a joke, without knowing a damn thing about her. Sabrina Wolf tried to laugh it off, adjusting the diamond strap on her gown. Come on, Graham, it was just a misunderstanding. No, he cut her off. It wasn't. You streamed her humiliation to your 2 million followers, Sabrina. You called her names, encouraged others to mock her. You didn't just misunderstand her. You tried to destroy her. Sabrina's mouth opened, then shut. The live stream had already ended, cut off when security noticed, but screenshots were forever, and the internet had receipts. Graham turned to face the entire crowd now, his voice rising just enough. Elise walked away from a tenured professorship at Stanford, one she earned 3 years of work and brilliance, because she believed in me. When Cerebrian Labs was nothing but a desperate code and a prayer, she was the one who kept the lights on. She paid the bills while I built the dream you all now flock to. He paused, scanning the rows of glittering people whose wealth had never been tested by sacrifice. If anyone here thinks she's unworthy, then you never deserve to be invited. The gasp that followed was collective, subtle but sharp, the kind of shift that turned guests into suspects. Graham turned to the sleek woman standing just behind the rose columns. Nathaniel, he called. Nathaniel Reed, Graham's chief of staff, stepped forward in a navy suit, tablet already in hand, fingers flying. Pull security footage. Cross-reference with guest list. Anyone who laughed, insulted, or laid a hand on Elise, escort them out. Immediately. The terrace buzzed. Glasses clinked nervously. Talia Mera grabbed her purse like she might bolt. Ines Lauren turned toward her father, who shrugged helplessly. Within seconds, the first guard approached Sabrina Wolf. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "you've been asked to leave." Sabrina stiffened, outrage blooming on her face. "You can't be serious." But the crowd had turned. Phones were out again, not to mock, but to record the reckoning. "This is a mistake," Sabrina hissed. "My publicist will." "Your publicist is already drowning," Nathaniel replied without looking up. #Wolf in cheap clothing is trending worldwide. Sabrina's face drained of color. Security escorted her through the garden path, her heels catching on cobblestones, her posture crumbling. Talia Mera was next. A guard touched her shoulder and whispered, "This way, ma'am." She tried to argue, but another guest muttered, "You filmed her like she was an animal." Talia's crypto empire had once thrived on clout. Now the comments flooded in, "Heartless heiress. You laughed at a bride." She vanished through the arch. Ines Lauren followed, too stunned to speak, her father not even attempting to intervene. Lord Alastair Benton, who'd muttered something about cattle and couture earlier, was pulled aside by guards with video proof. "I'm a lord," he growled. "I'll call Parliament." "Do that," Nathaniel said without looking up. "They'll love your quote about street rags at a wedding." Finally, Riley Knox, the smug venture capitalist who'd made a toast about gold diggers and flip-flops, was led away. His $1 million grin gone, his custom tux soaked in sweat. The crowd parted like the Red Sea for their exit. Paparazzi waited beyond the estate's stone walls, flashes erupting like fireworks. The same elite who had arrived like royalty now left disgraced, shamed in real time. Social media, as always, was faster than justice. Hashtags surged, hashtag Elise was right, hashtag Villa Belmare meltdown, hashtag bride and linen, hashtag worth more than diamonds. But inside the gates, it wasn't about the online storm. It was about silence. Stillness. The shift. People began lowering their phones. Others stepped back. A few even looked at Elise not with pity, but reverence. She hadn't cried. She hadn't shouted. She had simply stood tall in the face of a machine built to crush anyone who didn't conform. And she had walked through it. Elise turned to Graham, her eyes glassy but clear. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. Graham smiled. "You didn't have to stand there and take it. But you did." Nathaniel approached once more, this time speaking directly to Elise. "Just so you know, the footage of you standing there, calm while they mocked you, it's already gone viral. They're calling you the woman who never blinked." Elise blinked now, but only to brush away a speck of dust. "They can call me whatever they like," she said softly. "I know who I am." Graham looked at her with such pride, such peace, it made even the guests who had remained loyal shift uncomfortably. Because in that moment, they realized they had never seen wealth like this. Not in dresses. Not in watches. Not in status. They were in the presence of true substance. "Let's finish what we came here for," Graham said, lifting her hand to his lips. "We've still got a wedding to attend." And with Elise's hand in his, they turned and walked back toward the villa. The same path she had been dragged down minutes earlier. But this time, her steps were lighter. This time, her walk wasn't a march of shame. It was a procession of justice. As Elise and Graham stepped back through the marble archway of Villa Billionaire, the energy that once vibrated with judgment and mockery had transformed into something altogether different, something quieter, weightier, reverent. The same eyes that had filmed her shame now followed her with silent awe. Guests parted respectfully as the couple passed, no longer whispering, no longer holding up phones. There were no hashtags in that moment, only breathless recognition that they had witnessed something bigger than a spectacle. They had witnessed a woman stand tall against a storm and never flinch. Inside, the villa's grand hall glowed with amber light from crystal chandeliers. Staff members, now fully aware of the situation, straightened their uniforms and lowered their gazes with something like shame, or perhaps respect, as Elise passed. A soft melody played from a nearby string quartet. Nathaniel Reed met them near the main staircase. "Everything's been handled," he said with a small nod. "Security has confirmed all footage related to the incident is documented and under control. Damage control's in motion," but honestly, he glanced at Elise with something close to admiration. "The public's already rewriting the story. They're not calling it a wedding scandal. They're calling it a reckoning." Elise offered him a soft, gracious nod. "Thank you, Nathaniel." He smiled, then turned away to coordinate the resumption of the ceremony. Graham looked at Elise. "You want a moment?" She nodded. "Just a quick one." She slipped through a side hall and up the stone staircase, her footsteps light but unhurried. Alone in a candlelit dressing room once meant for a pageant-ready bride, Elise stood before the mirror. The olive stain still clung to her linen dress. Her braid was loose, strands falling over her cheek. She could have stayed as she was, her dignity didn't need embellishment, but she knew the weight of symbols. And today, for all its cruelty and chaos, was also a celebration of love. She removed the simple dress and stepped into a gown that shimmered like the surface of Lake Argent at sunset, ivory silk embroidered with hand-stitched pearls. It wasn't about showing up the crowd. It was about honoring herself. She undid her braid, letting her chestnut hair fall in waves. She pinned one side back with a diamond clip Graham had given her the night they got engaged, not flashy, but meaningful. And when she looked in the mirror again, she didn't see a woman transformed. She saw the same Elise. Only now, the world would finally see her too. As she descended the staircase, the music softened. Heads turned, not in mockery, not in surprise, but in silent awe. The guests, those who remained, instinctively stood. No one dared speak. The ivory silk caught the golden light like a memory. Her gown swayed with grace, but her steps, firm, measured, were what left people breathless. At the altar on the lakeside terrace, Graham waited. The setting sun bathed the water in gold. Father Benedetti, in his white ceremonial robes, gave a small nod of welcome as Elise joined Graham beneath the floral arch. The wind off the lake was soft. The world seemed to hold its breath. "We are gathered here," Father Benedetti began, "to witness a union that has already endured more than most do in a lifetime. Today is not about proving love, but honoring it." Elise's hand found Graham's. He looked into her eyes, steady, familiar, home. "Elise," he said, voice full of both ache and awe, I didn't know how to build a life until you showed me what one looked like. I vow to protect yours, to fight for it, to never let the world twist your worth. You walked through fire today, and you never let go of who you are. I promise to always make sure the world sees that woman as clearly as I do." Elise's eyes shimmered. But she didn't cry. "Graham," she said, her voice clear as the lake breeze, "I stood by you when we had nothing, not because I was waiting for this moment, but because I saw what you were made of. Not the company. Not the money. You. And even now, standing in front of the world, I still see the man from that coffee-stained dorm room, dreaming big. I promise to walk beside you, no matter where the world takes us. Because you are my home." Father Benedetti gave a gentle smile. "By the power vested in me," he said, "I now pronounce you, once again, husband and wife." The kiss that followed was soft, tender, and yet it sent a wave through the entire terrace. Guests who had once ridiculed Elise now wiped tears. Even the stone-faced guards looked moved. Applause began, timid at first, then swelling into something real, something that sounded like apology and admiration all at once. Elise and Graham turned to face them not as a power couple or tech royalty, but as two people who had walked through humiliation, hand in hand, and emerged brighter. The reception unfolded under a canopy of stars. Strings played while lanterns swayed gently in the trees. Waiters served champagne with a little more reverence than before. Elise and Graham danced together beneath the soft lights. Her gown shimmered like water. His hand rested gently on the small of her back. They didn't speak much, because they didn't need to. During a quiet moment on the terrace, Nathaniel approached, tablet in hand, though the screen was dark for once. "It's done," he said with a slight smile. "Trending worldwide. Not the wedding. Not the guests. Elise." Graham raised an eyebrow. "What are they calling her?" Nathaniel chuckled. "The woman who walked with grace." Graham glanced toward Elise, who now stood at the edge of the lake, her reflection in the water framed by moonlight. "She didn't need their approval," he said softly. "But now, they finally know what I've always known." Nathaniel nodded. "She didn't just change the story. She rewrote the standard." Elise turned, her eyes finding Graham's across the terrace. He walked toward her, and when he reached her side, he didn't say a word. He simply offered his hand. She took it. No crown. No spotlight. But as they stood beneath the stars, the quiet applause of the night wrapped around them like a promise fulfilled. Elise Morgan wasn't just the bride. She was the reason this wedding mattered. And now, the whole world knew it. Sometimes, the most powerful moments are the quietest ones. Elise Morgan didn't raise her voice, didn't throw back insults, and didn't demand attention, yet she commanded it through grace, dignity, and quiet strength. Her story, though fictional, carries a truth that I hope resonates with every one of you who has ever been underestimated, dismissed, or judged by what you wore, how you spoke, or where you came from. The lesson here is clear: worth isn't worn, it's lived. True value doesn't shimmer under chandeliers or whisper from designer labels. It's etched into the choices we make, the love we give, and the resilience we show when the world tries to dim our light. Elise was treated like an outsider because she didn't match the image people expected. But instead of shrinking, she stood tall. She didn't defend herself with words, she let her truth speak through her silence, her composure, and her integrity. And when the world saw her for who she really was, it was forced to reckon with how deeply it had failed her. Let her story be a reminder: never let someone's ignorance or cruelty make you question your worth. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to conform to be accepted. And you never, ever need to change to earn love. The right people, the ones who truly see you, will recognize your value, even when the world refuses to. To those who have felt invisible in rooms that judged you before knowing your name, this story is for you. To every person who chose dignity over retaliation, this story is for you. And to those who quietly carry others, who give without needing praise, who believe in someone before the world catches up, this story honors you.